In this video, we're looking at one of the more scientifically interesting objects in the Messier catalogue, although it may not appear that at first glance. It's the Messier 15, or the Pegasus cluster, which is a gorgeous globular cluster located in Pegasus. It's a really lovely target to observe either through a camera or visually, as it's super bright with an extremely dense core and perfect for those summer evenings. So, roll the intro. So around the time of this picture, I was blessed with 4 clear nights in a row. The first of which I spent up on a hill taking pictures of the Eagle Nebula, which I plan to finish off as soon as I can and release a video on. Second night, I spent in my garden looking at the Pegasus cluster. Now I had briefly observed this object before, but I couldn't get it going. This is the best that it came out. It was back when I'd first gotten my big telescope and I really wasn't quite sure what I was doing in terms of processing and data acquisition. So that's the best I could do. But now that I think I'm way better than I was back then, I was excited to do it justice. However, I wasn't as giddy or excited as I was for this object as some other objects, because frankly, at an initial glance, star clusters get very repetitive. At least globular clusters do. They're all this kind of ball of stars with a bright core and some nearby bright stars nearby with maybe a galaxy in the background if you're lucky. As the time went on, I captured some really nice data and actually did some research into what was happening in the object in terms of physics and actual star interactions and stuff. And then that made me quite a bit excited. We'll get onto that later in the science section, but it's a really, really interesting object scientifically. Now firstly, this object is bright. It is really bright, so bright you can see it through an eyepiece and through a pair of binoculars, I believe. It is quite small, but it is really bright. So I couldn't obviously capture fully what my eyes are seeing because, that's not how things like that work. But I did get a representation of what you should kind of expect to see with your eyes through a regular eyepiece. And it should give you a view similar to this. Now this just goes to show how tightly packed the centre of this object is, because as the video goes on and you see the final image, you see that this cluster extends quite a bit further out than this initial view. But that middle bit is so bright, you're able to see it just with your eyes from so far away. Part of the stuff that we're going to talk about later in the science section is because of how densely packed this middle is. But again, more on that later. For now, here's a live view I captured of the object through my telescope and a little more geography of the area. Enjoy!
One for the party, baby. Puff on the road, drumming, not back a drink. There's nobody home. Waking up Monday only to realize that your Saturday self ain't one you like. But give up, baby, go.
I haven't been feeling myself lately. There's something in my eye, please get it out. crash my car, I guess that's karma, baby. But I still turn the radio up, cause I know I'll turn out.
So, let's talk science. Messier 15 is a globular cluster, and this is the first time we've kind of done an in-depth video on a globular cluster. So, aside from an absolute mouthful, a globular cluster is a spherical conglomeration of stars that are all bound together by each other's gravity. They have a higher concentration of stars as you get closer to the nucleus, which gives them this really bright core and this kind of radial look where it looks like something's been blown outwards, kind of similar to the animation style of a supernova in the game Outer Wilds. They can contain anywhere from tens of thousands to millions and millions of stars, and they all orbit this central point of gravity pretty stably, and there's very rarely collisions, despite how dense that core really is. They all kind of exist in this harmony where they'll just kind of brush past each other, maybe little interactions here and there, but very rarely there's a... Now, globular clusters, while they are technically in the galaxy, they tend to settle a bit outside. They're in this region called the halo, which is, if this is a galaxy where you have just my hand, not the arm. If this is a galaxy, you have this flat disc shape, the star clusters will be dotted around up and above, and kind of like this. See, it still belongs to our galaxy. It's still gravitationally bound to Sagittarius A. However, it's not technically in like a spiral arm in the same way that we are, but it still belongs to our galaxy. Specifically, Messier 15 is 12.01 billion years old, which is really old. The universe is about 14 point something billion years old, so that makes it only 2 billion years younger than the universe, which seems like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, that's comparing the age of something to the age of literally everything we've ever seen, ever known, will ever know, and will ever not know. Just let that sink in. It's 175 light years in diameter, and it's 32,620 light years from Earth, and is located in the constellation of Pegasus. Now, as I said, star clusters tend to orbit around galaxies rather than necessarily inside, and Messier 15 is a fantastic example of this. This is a simulation from a software called Space Engine. I'll leave a link to the description below. There is a free version, which is what I'm using, but there is a more up-to-date and more accurate and more pretty version on Steam, which, if you got a couple quid and you really like space, is absolutely worth getting. I'll probably do a video on Space Engine in the future, but I'm not sponsored. But yeah, as you can see here, it sits in the halo of the galaxy and just kind of exists outside and floats around and does its own thing. As mentioned earlier and shown in the picture, globular clusters tend to have this radial shape coming from the nucleus, which is the middle being the brightest and it just dispersing over time the further out you get. Now, it's theorized that the center of this is just a mess of white dwarfs, neutron stars, and just stellar corpses. But it's also been theorized that it has a black hole in the middle, which would be insanely strange. We know that galaxies have supermassive black holes in the middle that churns the gas and dust around them and creates these gorgeous sights of spiral arms, as well as the gravitational influence in the area around it. But the idea that a star cluster has a black hole in the middle, almost as if it's a failed galaxy that just got taken by other galaxies, is a really interesting thought. Now, they fall into a class called intermediate black holes, because they're significantly smaller and significantly weaker than supermassive black holes. Obviously, hence the name. These haven't actually been proven to exist yet. There's a couple candidates out there. Messier 15 is one of them, like just possible places where there could be, but it's just too hard to see in. The stars are just so dense in there, you almost can't see through to it. Now, because of their smaller size, we have no idea what they could look like. Supermassive black hole that we took the picture of in 2017 is Messier 87's supermassive black hole, which is a ginormous galaxy with an enormous black hole. This orange stuff around it you see is an accretion disk, which is gas and dust pulled in by the gravitational influence of the black hole, heated to extreme temperatures, moving at extremely high speeds, and glowing extremely, extremely bright. It's unlikely that an intermediate black hole would have such a display on it because of its smaller size, but then again, I'm a product designer, I'm not a physicist. It might have an accretion disk, who could say? So that's what I meant when I said that the Messier 15 is one of the more scientifically interesting, because at first glance it is just another globular cluster. But when you kind of take a deep dive into the science of it and the possibilities of there being a central black hole, it suddenly jumps up a level of interesting. And it's just beautiful, isn't it? that's that from me. Thank you for watching. This video's kind of been different. I've been very much sat in my room talking to a camera rather than out on site or out in a location, but to be honest, life's busy, man, and summer's completely gone here in England. It hits September and then it just starts raining and being cold and it feels like autumn now. Summer sessions are ending soon, got a couple more videos in a backlog, and then after that we're moving on to some autumn targets. Very excited, and stay tuned.
Whatever, I'm fine. I guess it's just life. Go kiss it goodbye. Who wasting your time? Cause this earth, it spins too fast. So let's live it while it lasts. Whatever